Welcome back to The Betrayed. I'm Gina Beck.
This is Drew Williams.
Thank you for listening, liking, commenting, and subscribing. We appreciate y'all, especially the reviews on Apple Podcasts.
Yeah, and thank you guys again, like always, for the continued support, the regular names. I love seeing it. Thank you guys.
We have a special guest. He is a fugitive recovery agent. He does situational firearm safety courses. He travels to obscure third world countries to train actual military. He owns a 501c3 for missing exploited children. And last but not least, he donates every weekend to feeding the homeless in Miami. How much more can this guy do? Welcome, Sully. How are you?
You guys have done your homework. I want everybody to know that I didn't tell them any of that. That was all them. You guys are like the FBI.
I got one more thing that I got to quote. Ishmael, he said, he's literally hands down, bar none, the best bounty hunter in the world. Please quote me on this. Thousands of arrests, he said.
Yeah, we call him Miles. Miles is his nickname. You gave everybody his government name, but yeah, Miles is actually the best skip tracer in the industry. So if you absolutely positively need to know something, he's the guy to ask.
Yeah, he's a pretty badass dude.
Let's start off with, how did you get into this line of work?
So it's actually a hobby for me. My main career is security and training. So I've been in the security industry for over 16 years now. I started in 2003. And then over the years, just from people I've ran into, and one of my partners, Brenton McDowell, he's actually still in the security industry. He was in the fugitive recovery side, and just in conversation, he's like, "Oh, you should do this. You'd be good at it. Like, you're smart and you've just got the drive and the heart." And at the time, I'm like, I don't know. I still like, being shot at in jungles and urban environments. He's like, "Well, you can do that too, but at least this time you got one person to chase and not like 50 people chasing you." So I'm like, okay, well, sounds good, but I didn't really pay much attention to it. And then years later, somebody else brought it up and was like, "Hey, you should do this." And I'm like, you know what? Let me see what it takes. And then I looked it up in my state, and it wasn't that hard. I mean, overall, it's harder than becoming a police officer, but the overall process to do it in my state, which is Florida, is almost 2 years. A lot of licensure, a lot of book work, a lot of on-the-job training and internship, and then exams and state exams, and yeah, that's kind of how I did it. I just did it out of boredom.
I've got, since we got you, I have one question for you. Well, I've got a bunch actually.
I was gonna say, like, you just have one.
No, not just one. I got a bunch.
I have like tons of questions for myself.
All right, so the community and what we do in predator hunting. When it comes to predator hunting teams, do you have any advice for better safety when we're exposing these guys in public?
The thing is that you have to look at it like this. These people are not, and the thing is that what I'm about to say might be used against me in the sense where I'm agreeing with it's a mental problem, but the problem with these people is that they have something wrong with them. You can't deny the fact that yes, there's a screw loose, like they're not well built, and when you have somebody like that who's unpredictable, and you pin them in a situation where they've let their guard down and they're expecting something, and you're giving them the total and opposite reaction, their reaction is going to be fight or flight. So it's either they're going to sit there and they're going to freeze and they'll be like, "What the fuck is happening?" Or they'll be like, "Fuck you," and be on the other spectrum and just try to remove themselves because now they're the victim and now they want to get out. So it's almost like you're trapping a wild animal. And two things happen. Either they stay quiet because they don't know what's happening, or they're going to frantically try to run from you, or they're going to try to escape the situation. So it's the same principle of humans. And if you catch a predator like this, two things happen. Either they sit there and they try to hear out what you've got to say, or they become defensive and they basically tell you to fuck off, and just they try to either fight you or try to remove themselves from the situation. So you have to be ready to deal with both spectrums and have an end game to what you're doing. Because I've recently been put on to you guys, because since there's so many like quote unquote people who do this, I don't really follow I'm not into like the in crowd. I kind of just do everything on my own, and I don't really like I don't know anybody else in the game to do things. But since you guys came recommended through Miles, and I trust Miles with my life, I'm like, all right, well then I'll fuck with you guys because he fucks with you guys. But it's just you have to know what always have a plan B for your plan Bs. So you guys bait them, you guys find them, you guys confront them, and then you need your what ifs, and then you need your plans for your what ifs, and you got to think of all the different scenarios and all the different paths that this could go, and then think about what you can do after that or what you can do with that. Because what if one of these guys fucking or women, because it's all women do the same thing too. What if they try to retaliate, and what if they try to hit you? What if they try to stab you? What if they try to what are you ready to deal with that?
Been a learning experience for sure. We've dealt with our own handful of own situations while
they've had
exposing
firearms
somebody.
pulled, things like that on exposures. We're sitting back on a team 1,000 miles away watching, because it was Mexican mafia trying to set up it was a human trafficking sting. Like that's what we got involved in that situation, and it went south.
We almost got ran over multiple times too. It's crazy.
Yeah, and you also don't know who the players are either. Sometimes you think it's just one guy or one innocent female, but it's a bigger scheme. And it's crazy to know this, but like I guess because it's become so prevalent now, and now it's become like a fad, if that makes any sense. Like now, like the predator and the pedophile thing is like a thing now. You know what I'm saying? First it was like the Me Too movement. Now it's this shit. Next week it's gonna be fucking your porn mustache is too long or some fucking crazy shit. But it's like there are groups and there are like cliques of crews of pedophiles. Like they actually stick up for each other, and there's like secret organizations. It's so strange that I guess because everything's been coming to light, like these are things that I didn't think really existed because I didn't really deal with it on such a massive scale. But because we have social media and networking and our voices can travel so far, now things have come to light that's like, holy shit, I didn't know that. Or holy shit, I didn't know that existed.
Are you talking about MAPS or are you talking about NAMBLA? Because MAPS are, they're called minor attracted person now. And then they have a thing called AOA, age of attraction, and they'll list like what ages they're attracted to. Then there's actually teenagers that are called pro contact maps, and they're minors that are for the pedophiles, and they all use little acronyms and stuff like that on their social media.
So this is like basically they're trying to piggyback off the LGBT thing. Like now they
Absolutely.
have their own
They're trying their best as they can. Thankfully, most people seem to be like absolutely fucking not. But yeah, they're trying to insert it. It's supposed to be like a sexuality now.
Yeah, because I recently exposed.
We found a bunch on Twitter.
Yeah, I recently exposed this MMA fighter in South Florida who actually I've known for years, and we've been Facebook friends for a while. But he made a comment on somebody's thread talking about how if a man can love another man, he doesn't see why a man can think of himself as a 10-year-old and love a 10-year-old. So I said, what the fuck does that make any sense to you? Like, he's like, oh, well, the LGBT community is trying to fight for it. I'm like, no, they're not. I'm like, if a man loves another man, that's an adult. That's a different story. But a man who loves a minor boy is pedophilia. And you thinking that that's the same argument is wrong in itself. And I'm like, that is characteristics of a pedophile. He's like, oh, I'm not a pedophile and blah, blah, blah. And it's just same thing. If you're going to allow a man to love another man, why can't a man love another kid? I'm like, bro, that's you're enabling that. It's the same fucking thing. Like, I'm gonna group you in the same category. So I exposed this kid. I posted his comments or whatever on Facebook. I posted his shit on Instagram, and then like he tried to retaliate and make up bullshit about me, And I've been arrested before, and I've shown everybody, and I don't give a fuck, but it's because of my job. Like, I have my job, shit gets crazy, shit goes south. But because they think that I've been arrested, they don't know what my charges are, they automatically assume shit. So he made up bullshit memes of, like, my jail pictures. But I beat him to the punch because when I saw somebody tag me in something, I went and posted my own fucking mugshots, and I posted my charges, and I posted the dispositions that they were all thrown out. Like, I didn't care. I'm not scared to tell people about my past because I don't give a fuck. Like, I didn't do anything wrong. I don't have nothing to hide. I don't care. So I beat him at his own game. And then he's just mad because now everybody knows that this guy was trying to fucking, and then he comments, and I have a screenshot saying, "Oh, it's fine because in a few days I'm just gonna say that my Facebook was hacked and it wasn't my fault." So I'm like, bro, you just wrote that. Like, I have that as a screenshot, you fucking moron. Like, his name is Jermaine Barnes, and he lives in Coconut Creek. He's from Coconut Creek, and he lives in Tamarack. So if anybody knows this guy, he's a fucking scumbag, and I have pictures to prove it. But yeah.
That dumb girl that was in the comments, she tried to message me, sending me your mugshot, saying this is who you're getting your news from. And I said, I would rather get my news from him than support a predator. Like, you're supporting a predator right now. What are you doing?
Talking about that weird that girl that I was arguing with, like, she thinks she's a model or whatever. She says she's a paralegal.
Yeah, sticking up, sticking up for that caught predator.
Bitch.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is that she writes me a message, right, and she sends me my mugshot, but I don't open it. You know how, like, you can look at your things but not open it, but see what they wrote you?
Yeah.
So I'm reading this, right?
Yeah.
And then she brings up an instance that I actually tried to fight that cop once. So he was running his mouth about me before any of this happened. I didn't know any of this shit existed. I didn't know he was like that. Like, he has kids. This guy's married and has kids. And has kids with some other girl from the academy that he was teaching. There's even a story on that, but that's another story for another time. But so I found out he was running his mouth about me. I didn't even know him. I don't know shit about him, but we're in the same kind of circles because I'm a firearms instructor, and so is he. So I guess I started teaching at some local range, and then he ran his mouth to the guys at the range thinking he wasn't going to get back to me because I think he brought up, oh, who teaches you? And then he brought up my name. He's like, oh, fuck that guy, blah, blah, this and that. So then they told me, like, yo, this guy was in here talking shit about you. And I go, who? And then they're like, this Jesse. And like, who the fuck is that? And they showed me his IG. I'm like, I don't even know who that is. Like, they're not, like, people are not even on my radar. Like, I don't fucking care. Like, people hate me and I don't even know them. And I'm like, what did I even do to you? I'm just like, okay. And it's because people don't know who I am and they're not in my circle and they just assume shit. And I'm like, whatever, I don't give a fuck. Like, they don't pay my bills. I could give a shit. But so I wrote in my story. And I threw subliminals because I know people who follow me follow him. I was like, oh, don't make me show up at your range day. And I think they only have like a specific night a week. And I'm going to show up and I'm going to slap you in front of all your fucking students. And then they got back to him within 10 minutes. I got a phone call from the guys at the range telling me that he wants to talk to me, that he never said nothing and blah, blah. I'm like, okay, I'm going to be at the range at this time. If he wants to come talk to me, tell him to show up. So I'm at the range one night. Where I'm teaching my class, I look over and I see some guy standing there with like a baby in his hand, but it was far, so I really didn't understand who it was. And it was late; it was like 9-10 o'clock at night. So I finished my class, I walk out, and it's this guy. So he's like, "Hey, I want to talk to you." I was like, "Yeah, cool." And I'm like, "Why'd you bring your baby?" He's like, "Oh, I didn't have anybody to take care of him." And I'm like, "You're holding a newborn baby to try to talk to me?" So I already knew that he was because people have warned him. He's like, "Bro, Sully doesn't give a fuck. He doesn't care if you're a cop. He doesn't care if you're in uniform. He will fucking slap you. He doesn't give a fuck about nobody." And I guess he used that as like a human shield kind of thing because I was like, all right, let's go talk outside. He's like, no, let's talk in here. I'm like, no, let's go talk outside because I wanted him to put the baby away and do something because I wasn't going to fucking hit him. But he was talking to me like, look, bro, things got out of whack. Like, you know how it is when you say something and it gets turned the wrong way. I go, bro, my name should have never been in your mouth in the first place. Like, why are you talking about me? You don't know me. I don't know you. So he's like, no, I'm sorry, this and that. I was like, look, you stay in your lane. I'm going to stay in my lane. It is what it is. Keep it moving. We shook hands. I walked away. That was what I thought was the end of that. But 2 weeks later at another range, he runs his mouth to somebody else who knows me, comes back to me like, yo, Jesse was talking shit about how he confronted you and you didn't want to fight him. And I'm like, are you fucking serious? And he's like, yeah, bro. And I'm like, what did you do? He goes, the guy goes, he's like, I laughed in his face. And Jesse goes, why are you laughing? He goes, because obviously you're lying. I know Sully for years, and that man has hit people for looking at him the wrong way. If you're gonna sit here and tell us that you tried to fight him and he denied you, not happening. So he got beef with that guy because of that, but it's just that guy was fucking stupid. So that bitch that was defending him writes me a message talking about, oh,
Yeah.
you're I can see why you hate him. You try to look like him. I'm like, we don't even look alike. But he's like, oh, you try to look like him.
Not at all.
And oh, you ran. You what is it? What did she say something about? You ran when he showed up like a pussy or this and that. I'm like, no, that's not what happened. But it's okay. But that means that he's talking to her. That means that it got back to him, and he needs a way of talking to me without like incriminating himself. So I'm like, all right, I'm glad that he knows that I'm out here, and I'm glad that he knows that I'm fucking exposing him. So I just don't
You
want
could just tell by the way she was saying things, it was his words or something, you know?
Yeah, you can kind of tell that either he has access to her IG, or because in some of the arguments, like some of the things she's saying was too emotional and too direct. So for somebody to just be like, oh, that's my friend, that's not true. Okay, cool. Like, I get it. But for you to sit there and egg it on, you have to have been writing that, or you forwarded it to her. So
Yeah.
it is what it is. I'm not scared of them. I'm not scared of his parents. I'm not scared of his fucking family, because they all have got ties in politics and the government and cops. They were all chiefs of polices and shit like that. I don't give a fuck. Oh, and I don't know how long. Oh, yeah, you guys started following me for a little bit now. So I recently started teaching our highway patrol SWAT team. So this was on a Friday. Friday night, the guy who hired me, the lieutenant of the Southern SWAT team, calls my buddy, the one who got me hired onto the SWAT to teach for that day. My buddy doesn't answer. He sees it Saturday, calls him. The lieutenant tells him, hey, this is what's going on. My boy forgets to call me, calls me Monday. I answer the phone. Off the bat, I just hear laughing. He's like, bro. And I'm like, what now? He's like, you don't understand the severity of the haters you've got. I go, what the fuck happened? He goes, somebody called Tallahassee, which is our capital. Somebody called Tallahassee, got in contact with the person in charge of the FHPs of the Highway Patrol, told them, why do they have a guy like me teaching their SWAT who's a delinquent, who's a criminal, who's blah, blah, blah. The people in Tallahassee don't know who I am, because this is obviously like micromanaged, like it's through chain of command. So to find out what's happening, because they want to stop, they're doing damage control, they call the lieutenant down here who's in charge of the SWAT. But this is what happened, and this is where everything backfires on this fucking piece of shit who calls them. That day that I taught them, we went to lunch. They invited me to lunch, to talk about personal stuff, because we didn't get a chance to do the introduction. And they're telling me like, oh, like, what do you do with your background? I explained to them. They're like, holy shit, like, you do what it takes teams of 12 or 20 of us to do. You do it by yourself. Like, you're hunting down fugitives, and you're literally here teaching us how to do it in teams. And I'm like, yeah, but it's also unsafe, and it's also dangerous, and I've also been in trouble. Like, what do you mean? So I showed them the video of why I got arrested. So I told them, like, yeah, I've been arrested for my job and this and that. It's like, yo, that's crazy. They saw the video. They're like, why the fuck did they give you those charges? Nothing happened in the video that you did. I go, exactly. They never wanted to see the video. They took me to trial. Until they saw the video, they dropped the charges. So like, holy shit, that's crazy. Like, we're sorry you went through that, but we're glad to have you on board, blah, blah. Let that go. So when the state calls the lieutenant is like, we already know. We know he's been arrested. We saw the video. He told us. So we don't have a problem with him. We're happy with him. We're not going to fire him. So it backfired. So these fucking pieces of shit, you know who the fuck it was that called? That cop's dad.
I was going to say his dad.
Oh, of course.
Dad, that was the chief. I guess because he thought he had pull, thought that he can get me blackballed. So he fucking called the state. Fucking piece of shit. So obviously they're all watching my shit. So I don't give a fuck. But yeah.
Oh yeah.
He's trying to get me blackballed.
The haters will watch you the most.
Last Friday, I think it was.
That's pretty recent.
Yeah.
Yeah, your haters will try to, I don't know, get you down. They'll watch you the most. They'll
Yeah,
everything.
the
It's
biggest fan
insane the
ever.
lengths that they'll go.
Because people always tell me like, "Oh, so and so said this, so and so did that." I go, I don't fucking care. I don't fucking care. Unless you're standing in front of me within arm's reach, I don't give a fuck. Because people are gonna say what they're gonna say. Nobody's ever gonna be happy. Like, you can't please everyone, and I've learned that. I used to worry about what people thought. I don't give a fuck anymore. I really don't. I don't lose sleep about a goddamn thing. I'm not a predator. I'm not a pedophile. I sleep good at night.
Yeah, your
Exactly.
Instagram page
We were just
is one of my favorite right now. It's always got something good on it.
yeah.
But yeah.
We were just talking about the Me Too movement and things like that. How do you feel about the Save Our Children movement that's blown up recently? Do you see more facts being posted by people than fake news or vice versa? Because we're in several groups and we have noticed that people are posting just about anything without fact checking to the point admins are letting them know that they need to stop or the groups will be closed. Do you have any advice for that?
So I just got added to a group on this app called Telegram.
Mm-hmm.
About 50 something people in there, and they're from different walks of life around the world. And they all seem to have the same directive in mind. So I thought, because one of my clients' wives on the security side was the one who invited me, and she's from Europe. So I'm in this group, no more than fucking 10 minutes in, and it's a bunch of like women, housewives, no offense to all of them out there. They keep screenshotting this fucking documentary or show or some shit on Netflix about some little kids. I don't know what it's called, like some dancers or some shit. I don't know.
Cuties.
That shit.
Cuties, yes.
But they're all reposting this shit saying, "Oh, how disgusting, how this and that." But there was no game plan. Like, there was no directive or end game to it, if you know what I'm saying. Like, it was just them complaining. So I kind of met my friend on the side. I'm like, "Hey, I don't know if this group's for me because it seems like a witch hunt, and they're just looking for things to just attack, and they don't really have a game plan, and they don't really have like an end game." Because one of the girls found some Instagram of like this contemporary, I'll send it to you guys, some contemporary wardrobe designer, and they do like dope shit. Like, I don't know if you ever seen, like, it's almost like Lady Gaga but in kids. So there's very like poofy dresses with like eccentric makeup. Kanye West meets little kids too. Like, they have like these like knit sweater things that look bummy, but they're not really bummy, but it was like a skull. I got the point of like the clothing, like, it's very contemporary, very fashion forward, and there were kids like 6, 8, 10 years old. But I didn't understand why the lady posted in the group, like, she was like, "Oh, this is disgusting," and then somebody else agreed with her, and I'm like, so I wrote my friend, I'm like, "Look, did I miss something with this wardrobe? Like, I don't get what's wrong with it. Like, I don't see the pedophilia thing to it. Like, I don't see the sexual, because none of the clothes were revealing at all. It was almost like contemporary doll style, where it's like very floofy bottom dress things with like, but they're long and like very ruffled like necks and like, it wasn't. I didn't get it. Unless there's something I missed. There's like a new with contemporary art. I don't fucking know, but I didn't get it. So I kind of felt weird, and I didn't really want to say it in the group because I didn't want them to think that like I was like pro whatever that was.
And that's what happens in those groups. If you speak up and question anything, they start calling you a pedophile, and it's like, I'm just trying to see where's your sources, like where's the context. And G knows how I feel about it. I see great enthusiasm. All these people like, get the predators, get them, but nobody cares about the local stories of all your local pedophiles or trafficking rings that are getting busted all the time. You can find them all over the news if you actually look for them. Those are not in the groups. Those are never talked about. It's always pulling apart a Justin Bieber video looking for satanic symbolism. It's like, you guys, we got.
I think what it is, it's become a clout chase. And I think that they're trying to look for something they can attack that has traction already. They're not trying to bring out the local church pedophile ring, or they're not trying to bring out the local government pedophile ring. They want the artist, they want the entertainer, they want the president, the vice, they want somebody that's already a target to just jump on that bandwagon and gate, versus actually looking for something in your fucking local area and exposing that. But what I was trying to get to with that whole group thing about what you said is I learned something today that I'm going to look into it. And I posted it in my story, and I know you guys saw it. The shit about the American Crime Journal and about Tim Ballard. Because I saw the documentary recently. I'm like, holy shit, this guy's been doing good work, blah, blah, blah. I fell for it. But if you read that fucking that document from the American Crime Journal and what they wrote and what they pointed out about Tim Ballard and Ashton Kutcher, they're both full of shit. They're both liars. That Tim guy's made over $60 million so far and is still asking for money. He won't give anybody his financials. He won't. There's no transparency with anything. Ashton Kutcher claims to have saved thousands of kids, but there's zero proof. There is zero proof.
I've looked also because I've saw a lot of Ashton Kutcher posts. I've looked and I can't find anything.
Yeah. So imagine. And here's the thing that the guy said in the thread. He was like, "How is this Ashton Kutcher supposed to be responsible for technology that led to thousands of arrests, and the man isn't educated at all? But you have government agencies with big brother capabilities that can't do a tenth of what he's done. So they're asking for proof. They're asking for to be held accountable, and it's not happening."
And those who don't know, Ashton Kutcher claims to have rescued 5,000 plus children in the last 5 years or something like that. It's some crazy number.
Through some facial recognition thing.
Well, they're talking about
partly of it.
There's a facial recognition thing that he didn't even design. It was designed. I forget her name. It was they first tested it in the Philippines, and it looks like a real little girl, and they're catching pedophiles through the internet this way. And I think that's what they're talking about. But Ashton Kutcher didn't develop that. That was developed between a multitude of programmers from Europe, Canada, and the US. It wasn't him. It was programmers.
But they're giving Ashton the credit. So, but in that I want to finish reading that investigative journalist thing, because apparently they hired attorneys for a gag order and a cease and desist against American crime journalists. And in that cease and desist, they claimed they basically dry snitched on themselves and admitted the shady practices of Tim. Because apparently he's a Mormon and also a Mason and some other crazy shit. And supposedly that Our Rescue, that OUR, his organization, was actually started by the Latter-day Saints. The
Church of Latter-day Saints. That's the Mormon term or the modern term for Mormons.
Yeah, it was LDS is what they referred to it as LDS. So they were saying that it actually wasn't started by Tim. It was actually started by the Church of Latter-day Saints. But they think it's one of these cloak and dagger kind of things, a misdirection. They have their own culty practices, and they're using the organization to divert the attention, kind of thing. I gotta read this. It got good. It's really long, but the person who wrote it is some fucking award-winning writer, a journalist, and this person went hard on Tim and hard on the OUR organization, and was just asking the questions that people need to ask. And there's no transparency in this shit. But that I'm just tired of I do that too thing. Everybody's
yeah,
I do anti-human trafficking, and it's I do that too, and I do that too. I'm how do you do that? I don't get it. Why do you hand out merit badges? Does everybody have this power now? I don't fucking understand. But I don't know. I'm just sick of I'm honestly sick of the movement in its entirety, because it's not what it was supposed to be.
Right. I can agree. Like I've told Drew many times, it's a bittersweet. I love seeing everybody hop on board, be more aware, talking about this stuff. But at the same time, for how long I've done it, it's this isn't the right way to go about it. Just posting non-factual things and growing large groups without any main goal, What are you going to do with all these people in this group that have all this rage and excitement and adrenaline for going after pedophiles. Like, what are you going to do with them?
Yeah, like what's the end game? Like, what's your game plan?
Well, this kind of leads into like one of my questions. For teams that are actually doing this right, what's a better way for us to approach law enforcement to try and get them to cooperate with us? Because that seems to be a huge problem throughout the nation. They feel like we're vigilantes, which we kind of are.
So here's the thing. I remember seeing something a few years back, and I don't know if it's you guys or who it was, but I remember, or was it in the UK? Oh, no, it was in the UK. It was in the UK. There was a documentary, and this was years ago. And there was this guy that was hunting down predators in the UK, confronting them, calling the cops, and the cops did nothing with it. I don't know if you guys have seen it or know what I'm talking about.
That's pretty much
There's
how
parts-
most of the UK busts are, because they have the what is their law technically called? They can hold a person to the police. They can citizens arrest basically right there.
Yeah.
But their laws are so laxed on pedophilia in most European countries. It's like a slap on the wrist for them.
The cops will come within 60 minutes, but then they'll just be let go most of the time.
Yeah, because they don't have any hardcore concrete proof but here's the thing, what they were saying, because I think they even talked about talked to the law enforcement agencies after and asked them why don't they do anything. And it kind of makes sense to why they don't follow through. It's because they didn't do the investigation. They didn't do the trapping. They didn't do the work. So it could be tainted from our side. Not that anybody, I can't say that anybody wouldn't use it for their own ill will, but I get what they're saying. Since they didn't start the investigation and end it, they can't just show up and see somebody pointing finger and be like, oh, he's a pedophile, and then arrest him. Like, I get it. I understand. So I think, going back to your question, is start small. Start maybe with your local, request to speak to like the local chief of police and say, hey, we've got this going on. We've been responsible for this many exposures. We want to work with your local units, whoever's in charge of this, who handles these kind of crimes, and work on stings and work on setting these people up, or at least sharing resources to help you guys, pin the tail on the donkey. But the major issue that's above all of us right now is the end game of the punishment. Every state's different. Every local municipality is different. Cool. Let's say we right now we fucking get on another one of these calls and we say, okay, in this area we've got to target these people. Cool. Let's set them up. Let's do all this shit. We spend fucking 2 months baiting somebody. We corner them. We get them. Cops show up. We do the whole thing. They put cuffs on them. Cool. They go to court. They give them fucking probation or some dumbass shit, or release them because of some. Then what? We burned our resources. We burned our decoys. We burned who we are. For what? To do what? So it's the same concept with like animal cruelty. We have dogfighting rings, abuses, sacrifices, shit like that. But what's the point of having enforcement if there's no harsh punishment?
Yeah.
That's something G especially has always called for, is we need more punishment for sexual predators, because you look at people are in jail, going to jail longer for cannabis charges, drug charges, and they're usually...
And for our team, it varied. Oh, go ahead.
No, you go. I mean, I think it just starts with local government, though. People don't understand this. Is like when I have arguments about the presidency and I'm not going to get into politics right now, but people always talk shit about the president and all this shit. And I'm like, look, if you actually gave a fuck, you should have voted in the primaries, or first fucking vote in your state representatives, you stupid motherfuckers. Like, the people that in your local governments are the ones who end up in that seat. So if you don't vote people to represent you at the state level and at the city level, you're not going to be heard. So unless we can get a state representative or a congressman or congresswoman to help lobby and to help change laws and to do anything, nothing's going to happen. Our work is not going to go anywhere until something happens where it's like, okay, if we catch you doing whatever this level of crime, you get this much time. If you do this much of the crime, you do this much time. If you do the whole crime, then you get the whole fucking, you know what I'm saying? Like, there needs to be a structure and something needs to be written out, and somebody needs to sit with a governor, somebody needs to sit with a representative, somebody needs to sit with a congressman, a congresswoman, and say, hey, this is what's going on. We need help passing this through Congress or passing this through the state. And it starts with local government.
You're absolutely right. Everything you stated is absolutely right. People don't pay attention. California is a perfect example. Everyone thinks of it as a blue state, and it is. But the state with the most amount of registered Republicans is California. Second is Florida. And we bitch and complain, but we continue to vote in the same idiots year after year to represent us, either on the state side or on the national side. And it's just like kind of shooting ourselves in the foot. It's just practicing insanity.
I'm going to give you an example. You know that video that I had posted of Catherine Fernandez Rondo, the lady, the district attorney who wouldn't prosecute this cop or any cop in general ever in her whole career? Like, she won yesterday. Like, how did that happen? It's because nobody knows the process. Nobody knows to vote. Nobody knows who her opposition is. Nobody knows shit because they don't get the platform. They don't get the networking. They don't get the response from the people because they don't know shit who the fuck is her opposition. So she won yesterday. She now is our district attorney, whatever the fuck she is again. And that's yesterday. And after all this shit, she's still in her seat.
Yeah.
It just proves everything you said. Like, that is crazy.
People complain, but they don't. I'm guilty
they
of
don't
it.
do anything.
I didn't know there was any sort of running for that. Like, I didn't know that was up for grabs right now. But because we have
Me
other
neither.
shit that we're involved in the world, we're not looking at the local shit. And I was guilty of it, and I'm guilty of doing it. I didn't vote. I didn't know. And I'm in this circle, and I'm in the know. And I obviously didn't know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm guilty. I'm way into politics, and sometimes I'll get in my voting ballot, and I'm like, I don't even know what this is. Like, what is this? I've been searching for months.
Even us who do this, it shows how much can go over our head as well. I have a question. What's the most impactful moment of your career so far?
Which side? The security side or the fugitive side, or what side? Like, what
Any side.
What part of
just
my
the
life?
most impactful overall in your career? So either side.
The thing is that I don't know if I have a specific moment, and the reason why is because I try to live my life where every second I breathe, I try to make an impact in someone's life. So if I can help someone, perfect example, I was driving up from the Keys because I went to go have lunch or whatever, and I saw a bicyclist just sitting on the side of the road, like he's like a professional bicyclist, like, yeah, like the whole get up, and he's just sitting there. But what was weird was that where he's sitting is like a desolate part of road, and I'm like, I didn't have to, and so many cars passed through there, but I rolled down the window, was like, hey, are you okay? And he laughed and he turned, like, yeah, no, I'm good. But then he's like, actually, do you have water? So I'm like, yeah, I have water. So I give him the bottle of water out of the car, and I start talking to the guy, I'm on the side of the road. And I'm like, do you need a ride? He's like, no, yeah, you guys don't really know the area here we're at, but he's like, oh, I rode from Weston. So Weston, from where we were at, by car, is an hour and a half. So at the time I saw him was around 2 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. He said he's been bike riding since 9 a.m. He still has, by car, another 3 hours by car to his end destination. So in total, he needed to be on the bike for about 16 hours to get to where he was going. And he had zero water. Even though other people would pass things, I go out of my way to stop and ask questions or do things, or like I sacrifice things for people around me, because if I could change one person's life or give a person a hug or say hi to somebody or smile at somebody, you never know what that person's going through.
Yeah.
That extra hug, that high five, that handshake, even it's funny. I mean, hopefully one day we get to meet each other. You guys come to Miami or I come up there, but like in Miami is a very big prevalent gay community. So like if I ever get like a gay waiter or something, like I flirt with gay guys all the fucking time, and I'm straight as fuck. But it's funny because people laugh when they're with me and they're like, "What the fuck is wrong with you?" But like if I get a guy and he's fucking like, you could tell he's like he dropped a few feathers walking up to me, like out off the bat, like he'll take my order and I'll be like, "Thank you, beautiful," or "Hey, sexy," or like, and then they'll look at me funny because obviously I'm not the most like approachable guy, so they look at me fucking like, "What the fuck?" Like they look at me like, "What the fuck just happened?" So they like
That is so
it
funny.
makes them feel good though because I don't want them to think like there's something wrong with them or like they can't be accepted or it's not okay. So like I do things like that. Like I go out of my way to make people comfortable in situations where they're uncomfortable. Like I hang out with a lot of guys that look like, and we don't look like the friendliest people. So I don't want them to feel like, holy shit, I can't say nothing. You know, like I've had gay guys try to pretend to be straight. Like they'll like puff out their chest and they'll deepen their voice. Like I could tell that they're fucking gay. And I'm like, there's nothing wrong. Like loosen up, chill out. Like we're not gonna fucking beat your head in. Like we don't give a fuck. Like, but I try to make people comfortable around me.
That's amazing. That's sad that people have to still feel uncomfortable in situations like that. But it's amazing that there's people like you out there to be able to make those people feel at home in situations like that. That's awesome. It's really respectable.
I got a question for you more on your training side. Suggestions for like home defense for an average person. What would be like shotgun, something like that?
The problem is, I try to explain to people is when people ask that question, they think of the most damage rendered, and that's not the correct mindset to have when asking a question. What I try to tell people is train on how to shoot first, because you can be just as lethal with a pistol than you can be with a shotgun or a rifle or whatever, an axe. Like if you have the proficiency and have the know-how of how to handle the firearm and how to have an accurate shot, it doesn't really matter what you own. You know what I'm saying? So ultimately my out of my heart and mind answer is learn to shoot a lot, and shoot different kinds of weapons.
And we'll link. I found Sully doing some training with is a bigger white boy. You were kind of dancing around in the background a little bit, but there you had some situational training where you were having like you were acting like two buddies were talking to each other, and then you would draw and kind of get your buddy to the other side.
Oh yeah, fuck. Where is that?
It's on YouTube. I'll send it
YouTube?
to you. I found it on YouTube.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite drills I like to teach the cops, because we have a bad habit here in Miami. I don't know. I mean, I think cops do it in general, but we have a bad habit that cops like to hang out at fucking Cuban cafeterias and at like cafe windows, and they like to sit facing each other, talking to each other, versus with their back towards the walls facing the threats. So they like to always sit there talking shit to each other. I call it, because we have a restaurant chain here called La Carreta, which means like the cart, like the wheel cart in Spanish, rough translation. So I call it the La Carreta drill because a lot of cops get free coffee at La Carreta. So there's always a lot of cops at that place, and they always do the same shit. They're facing each other talking shit. So I call it the La Carreta drill. And what it is you have one cop that's facing the street or the parking lot, and the other cop facing him. So the cop with the back towards the threat can't see what's going on. But the drill is so the person who's with his back towards the threat would know what to do when the person who's facing the threat makes a move. So the cop who faces the threat moves the cop with the back towards the threat aside, which triggers him to rock around him, draw his firearm while he's in cover with his partner who's already engaging the threat, grab his firearm, come onto a side, stay on the same plane as him, and then now you both engage the target. So it's kind of like a blindsided drill. So it stops people from not having like no situational awareness at all. It's to stop complacency, because complacency kills. That's my number one thing, as I tell everybody, complacency kills. But yeah, that's a drill I like to teach to cops mostly.
Yeah, you had a few in there. You had another one where you were teaching him to keep your eye on the target the whole time he was dropping. He would unload a mag, drop it, reload, unload it. I think you were having him do it like
Yeah,
three or
because
four times.
people have a bad habit when they're shooting and they go to reload. They like to look at their gun and look at where the mag goes. But if they learn to keep their eye focused on the target and put their gun in what's called their workspace, they can see with their peripherals where the mag is going, and by feel, if you have a lead finger or lead hand, you can know by putting your hands together, you know what that motion is. And if you do enough repetitions, you can reload your firearm without getting your eyes off the target. And the thing is that I always try to tell people, look at your instructor and look at their videos, look at their stuff. If you see them do a reload and they're looking at their mag while they're reloading, you don't want to learn from them. Because if they can't break that habit of not looking at where you're reloading, then you don't need to learn from that person, because they're teaching you bad habits.
Yeah, the video will link in the description. I think that's actually one of the first things you bring up within the first couple minutes is about instructors doing that and doing that wrong. I think anyone who's interested, it's about 11 minutes. It's a good video.
Yes, I think I know. I think I know what that video is. It's from a friend of mine named Zach. He looks like Thor.
Yeah, that's him.
Yeah, that's an old video. Yeah, that's his YouTube. That's his stuff. I recently started a YouTube. I don't have any videos yet, but one of my friends, Juan from Siguera Gear, told me, he's told me for years, like, oh, you should do this. Like people are doing a lot with their platforms. I'm like, no, they're like, I don't fucking care about that shit. But man, I'm seeing what these idiots are making off of YouTube. I'm like, bro, I could fucking do this with my eyes closed.
Yeah, I saw his video and then I found your channel, but I was like, oh, there's nothing on here. I was like, he must have taken everything down, but it.
Yeah, no, I recently started that. That was like a month ago.
Oh, all right. Well, that's good to know that there's going to be something else coming out.
Yeah, that's the thing is that another thing is having people videotape shit and edit shit. There's so many things that go into this shit like that. I don't know. I don't have patience for it. I don't have that know-how.
Do you train just anybody or specific groups of people only?
I kind of slowed down on the training itself in general. I used to train a lot of civilians on security, and then I kind of stopped because of liability reasons and the responsibility. But I've kind of restricted myself to necessity only, or emergency only, or like law enforcement, military only, which means like anybody who has a need to learn a specific skill set and not a want to learn a specific skill set, because they just understand it and could appreciate it more. Because some people who just want to do something, they don't really appreciate shit. And somebody who needs to
that makes sense.
Understand what is involved in it.
Can you tell us a time where you helped a child?
Like what? But like what do you mean? Like an example, or like a recent time, or what's specify, like that question is like very broad.
Like within your career, have you ever helped a real child? Like have you ever dealt with a case where you went to go pick up somebody and maybe there was a real child in there, or a sex trafficking thing?
Yeah, okay, so that happens a lot. Well, I work with an organization in Miami called Bringing Them Home Project, and they're actually one of the original people who have done anti-human trafficking, even way before Tim, even way before this became a thing. And he's a private investigator named Joe Carrillo, and he goes out of his way to find runaways and kidnap kids and things like that. And he's reached out to me on ones that he knows he'll have opposition. So like, I've been in some stuff with him and like where there's pimps involved, and especially here in Miami, it gets rough. So like, I've had to do some things that we're not. Just imagine if you had the means to do something to the end user and always thought you wanted to do something to them. I was the one who did it. So like, we would find the kid, we would find the person responsible for putting us in this situation, and then I would handle that person. So that was what the goal was, or what my job title was. And then on the fugitive recovery side, it happens all the fucking time where like, I'll hit a house, I'll get my fugitive, but like he's got fucking 4 toddlers and it's just him or her in the house. So it's like now it becomes a shit show because I can't do nothing with the kids. I don't have any authority over the kids. So it's like I have to arrest my target. I have to keep them there. I have to call CPS, Child Protective Services, and the local law enforcement to come out. Now they get put in this. It's just a shitty fucking situation, but like it actually happens a lot because most. Fuck, I don't even know how to word this without even sounding fucking racist or like most people who have the warrants are the typical stereotype of they have a bunch of kids and they're a bunch of drug addicts. That's most of my fucking people that I run into. So it's like, how do you not sound stereotypical when the stereotype is real? So
and that's all you see.
I've hit homes and it's like, fuck, man, like kids living in shitty fucking situations. The homes are like they're hoarders or there's no food, there's drugs everywhere. Kids are playing with needles. That shit happens all the time. And it breaks my heart, but it's like, I can't do nothing about it. I don't have the means. I don't have the authority. I don't have any say. My authority is over the body I'm looking for. That's it. I'm responsible for that person. That is it. But shit like that happens all the time. Or like, I'll follow somebody in a vehicle. I didn't realize that there was a kid in the back seat, and I grab him at a gas station or cut him off on the side of a road to try to grab him. And now I'm stuck on the side of the road with a fucking kid in the back seat, and I've got their dad or their mom. And it's like now they saw this shit go down, you know. And I don't. So here's another thing. You guys recently started following me, so you haven't really seen like most of my videos. But if you go back in a lot of my videos, a lot of them have kids in them, or a lot of them have parents with kids involved. And if you read the descriptions, it'll say, I've waited, or I've already seen them 2 or 3 times before I did the actual hit, and I didn't do it because there was kids involved. If I was in a law enforcement agency or if I was a regular fucking cop, they would have just grabbed the fucking guy and snatched them up and dragged them across the floor in front of the kids. They don't give a fuck. And no disrespect to my law enforcement brothers and sisters, but it's true. They don't give a shit. They don't have remorse. They don't have the training or the heart to look at the end game or the end result. So what I do is I always try to minimize. Like there's one video of a guy that I'm arresting. He's in the backyard with like an axe in his hand, and the mom and the daughter are like a few feet away from him playing. So I walk around the corner and I'm like, I think his name was Christian. I'm like, hey Christian, I've got a warrant for your arrest, but I forgot what I tell him. I think I'm like, hey, but like, just stay where you're at. Drop the axe. I'm not gonna cuff you. And I tell the wife of the government, like, hey, do me a favor, can you take your daughter inside? You know, like, so she starts taking her in, and then she's like, oh, can she say bye to him? I go, yeah, take her, say bye real quick. I let her give him a hug, and while he's hugging her, she starts to cry, and I say, no, it's okay. I just want to talk to your daddy for a little bit. So I'm trying to calm her down to understand that, like, it's gonna be okay. He's gonna come back. Like, I just want to talk to him, you know. So she takes him inside, and I make him walk up to me normal, and I don't walk up to him. And when he's out of the kid's view, that's when I cuff him and I take him to the car. So like, those are things that a cop's not going to do. They're not going to do that.
Yeah.
And the problem is they don't understand that. I didn't grow up in the hood, but I didn't have everything. But I played in the streets. I came from a generation where we played in the streets. We all have friends. We all had good friends, bad friends. So like, I saw what other kids went through. I went through it, you know, like my parents went through it. So like, I saw what happens when it's in front of a kid. So I never want, no matter how bad that fugitive is, no matter how bad the crime is, I never want their kids to think that they're a bad guy. You could have murdered somebody. You could have fucking robbed a bank. I don't want your son or daughter to think that you're a piece of shit. Because when you get out, I want you to be that hero for your kid. I don't want to cuff you in front of your fucking kid, so don't make it a scene, and then this is gonna be cool. But 90% of the time, they're cool. Like I can handle the ones with the kids, but that's just the shit I deal with when I have the kids.
Now, have you dealt with a lot of like human trafficking in itself, like rings and things like that?
Not rings per se. I mean, I don't know. Do pimps don't really count as rings though?
Yeah, that's a real debate too. People are like, if that's a ring or not, but I almost feel like it is. But
I feel like a pimp is like a pyramid scheme. It's not really a ring.
It's a multi-marketing level.
It's a multi-level marketing. Well, I'm gonna catch so much shit for that. But I mean, like, I'm not taking away the severity of the crime, but I'm just saying, like,
It's true.
No,
Really.
it's true, man. That's why I laughed. That's it.
I haven't really encountered like the Epstein kind of thing. Like, I've never dealt with that. I've never had, like, I've never been around that. I've been around like there's a video on my Instagram of me arresting an escort. I set her up by pretending to be a John.
That's a more recent one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I watched that one. That one's actually pretty funny.
She ended up getting extradited to Algeria, but not extradited, deported to Algeria. I've done shit like that where it's either one. I'll either have a warrant for a pimp or I have a warrant for an escort. So I'll set either one up with the other. So, like, I'll use an escort to set up the pimp, or I'll use a pimp to set up the escort. But that's the extent of, like, a ring, in my experience. But that's just because in my circles, that's what we have. You know, like, I live in Miami. You know, like, it's normal here. Hookers and escorts are everywhere.
Just because the podcast is called the...
But I think, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, G, but I think where you're going with that was maybe on the kid side as a ring. I've never really encountered a minor that's been prostituted or escorted in my experiences so far.
Okay.
Do I know of 16, 17-year-olds being used to work at strip clubs and escorts? Yes. I've been around them. I've seen them. I've never have an encounter or engage with them or know enough about them, but they do exist. There are minors working at clubs. There are minors escorts here. Me personally, I've never run into them because I think that because we have such a heavy vice squad, like we have a lot of undercovers in Miami, I think that that's just well guarded. Do I have access to them? Yeah, I think I can get them because I know a lot of pimps. So I know somebody's going to know somebody who can get a hold of them. So if I really wanted to try, yeah, I could get it done. I can find them here. I can find them in Dominican Republic. I can find them in Colombia. I can find them in Haiti. So I have access to the pimps who would know how to facilitate them. Yeah, I could do that. I can get that done. But have I personally ran into that? No. It's not something that's so fucking prevalent. Like people in these documentaries and fucking shows want to make it seem like, oh, you can just fucking walk up to somebody in the street and Haiti and say, hey, I want to buy a fucking child. That doesn't work that way. Like, that doesn't exist.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was trying to get. I was trying to see what your feeling was on all that because you see, like we were talking about those groups before, they just think that they're looking for it in everything, and it's like it's terrible, but I don't think it's in everything like people are making it right now.
No, like that Wayfair shit, I don't know what to think about that.
No, we've discussed because G's actually ordered those industrial cabinets before, and they really are that expensive. Like they really are that expensive.
Really?
And, yeah.
I didn't look into it because people fucking think of the craziest shit. But don't get me wrong, some of these people were good at it because they match like missing kids' names. So like the fucking.
Well, the funny, we actually brought it up. I think it was 2-3 episodes. The main girl that got floated around as being the one that was in there, she posted up on Instagram being pissed because she's like, I wasn't sold in a cabinet. Like, and that didn't even that video hardly floats around, but you'll still see her picture and it being framed like she was in there. And she was not anything. Someone made that up.
Yeah, see that's the thing. Like the internet's so crazy that they can just share a fucking meme and think it's the truth.
Facts. I think there was actually 2 girls who were mad about it.
Was it 2? I just know the one of the main ones, but they're Jeep. I'm sure I believe you if there was another one.
Yeah, I didn't even know they were found. I just thought that they were just missing.
No, the main one they they found.
Well, just because the podcast is called The Betrayed, we like to see if our guests have their own story of betrayal to share with us. Do you have a betrayal story you feel comfortable telling us?
Betrayal.
Yeah. Have you ever been betrayed in your life?
Like in general?
Yeah.
Or like a kid?
Either or. Just whatever's on your mind.
You know what? I'm going to give you guys something that nobody knows. And I've never talked about this. And it's I don't know if this is why I have such a fire for this shit or why have such a hatred for the church. But I come from an Arab descent, so I'm Palestinian. For the most part, I'm Arabic. I'm like 75% Arabic, and the reason why I say that is because my dad's Jordanian, but he was born in Jordan because of the war in Palestine. She was pregnant, went to Jordan. He was born in Jordan, but my whole family's from Palestine. So everybody on my dad's side is Arabs. On my mom's side, my mom is Hispanic, her mom is Hispanic, but the males are Arabs. So that's why I say I'm like 75%, if that makes any sense. You know, if that's the right math, I don't fucking know. But I grew up as a kid in a contemporary Muslim household, but then my parents got divorced when I was young. And then my mom grew up Catholic. My mom grew up in a convent since she was like, I think 2 to 18. So we grew up Catholic. And then at one point after that, my mom was trying to find herself religiously, and we just went to like a bunch of random shit. And now I think my mom is like a religious mutt, where she does like, she'll wear like a fucking, what's that red thing, like a Kabbalah or some shit. She'll wear that, but then she'll wear like the hand of some shit and like a Buddha of this other shit, and then a cross. Like, I don't fucking know. Whatever. That's a conversation for another time. But going back to where this is coming from, we grew up Roman Catholic. There was a church in Coral Gables, which is a very expensive neighborhood. We would go when we were a kid. We would do like, was it called CCD or some shit? But Catholics call it something else. I don't know. Where like the teenagers go to, or like the kids go to, or some shit. I was like a teen. Like I was like 13, maybe 14, young. I remember I went to the bathroom, and I was at a stall. There was like 4. I could fucking remember this like it happened yesterday. And I'm 36, I think. Am I 36? I don't fucking know what the fuck I am. I don't. So this was like fucking 20 years ago. I remember those 4 stalls, and I'm in the first one closest to the. I mean, four urinals. I'm in the first one closest to the first stall, so I'm in the one against the wall. There's 3 empty ones. Some guy comes in and stands at the one right next to me. I'm a kid. Like, I don't think of things, you know, at the time. But while I'm sitting there fucking doing my business, I'm feeling uncomfortable, and I don't know why. And I just look over, and this guy is just standing there staring down at me. And he's smiling, and he kind of like winks at me. He didn't touch me. He didn't say nothing. He didn't do nothing. Like, he didn't. But something at the moment told me, I'm out. I'm gone. I don't give a fuck. I left the bathroom. I went to my mom, and my mom was the type of person that was like, I could tell her anything. Like, I need to tell her. So I told my mom. She didn't question shit because she knows I don't say nothing if I don't mean it. So she didn't question nothing. She said, go wait in the car. I was like, oh, she's about to fucking burn this place down. I'm out. I ran to the fucking van. I don't know what happened. I just remember my mom came running out the car. She's like, all right, let's go. We never went back to the church. I don't know what happened. I don't know what she did, but I never went back to that church again. So ever since then, I had just such a bad taste in my mouth for churches. I just didn't give a fuck. And I know it may be bad to because I know I'm going to get these fucking religious fucking weirdos on here going to be talking shit about, you shouldn't group us all in the same fucking category, blah, blah, blah. But you know what? You're not me. You're not in my heart. You don't know what I went through. He didn't fucking molest me, but I don't know what could have happened. And at the time, I was uncomfortable, and it's a feeling that I don't want to feel again. And I just wasn't happy, and I don't give a fuck. Churches to me I resent them, not just because of that incident. I just don't like churches in general because, and this is a conversation for another podcast, but it's just a way of controlling people. I don't give a fuck, but we can talk about that later on. But I just don't care for that because that was my first experience with, I don't know, could that be called pedophilia? I don't fucking know.
Absolutely. Him walking up to you and staring at your genitals and winking at you, yeah, that's not like a physical act, but that's absolutely you experienced it. That's
I'm like,
I'm sorry you had to go through that. That sucks,
yeah,
man.
like I was young. I didn't know what it was or what I was doing, but I knew it was wrong. So I was like, okay, I gotta go. Like, I fuck this shit.
And how awesome is your mom to just take charge like that? Like that's fucking awesome.
Here's the thing, and the thing that I don't know if my aunt would want this out there, and I think she's at the point in her life where she doesn't give a fuck at this point, and she might not be mad at me. But I think the reason why my mom took charge, and I didn't know this till recently, like in recent years, is because, fuck, man, and I'm really close to the person I'm about to out, is apparently my aunt was molested by my uncle. So I think that's the reason why my mom didn't play no games about that shit. So because my grandma never believed my aunt, my mom and my aunt are super close. So I think my mom took it upon herself to always take care of my aunt. So in that moment, my mom, I think, maybe felt that, you know what, this is my turn to make to make that move, to make that decision. And I think that's why my mom never played about that shit. And I didn't know this till recent years, because my mom kind of flirted with the idea of not flirted is a weird word of saying, but like she's dropped hints over the years when I was like older in my teens that there was an issue with my aunt and my uncle and why they don't really like each other. But she never flat out said it until recently when I started outing the pedophiles. My aunt responded to my DM and she said, "Are you ready to? Are you ready to?" What, I forget how the fuck she worded it, but she's gonna tell me after she sees this shit. She worded it like, "Are you willing? Would you be willing to turn against your own family?" And I'm like, "What?" And then it hit me. My aunt's about to admit some shit that nobody ever told me yet, and to this day, nobody's told me. She hasn't told me yet, still, but I know what she's trying to tell me. So I wrote back to her and I said, "If I have proof, or whoever it is that needs me to accuse somebody is willing to stand up to that person, then yes, I will fucking turn against my family." She didn't respond to it.
Yeah, well, denial within families is really
Unless she's willing to
common.
confront it herself, I'm not going to do it. Unless she's willing to do it too, I'm not doing it myself. So
yeah,
if she sees this, I love you, but it is what it is.
Yeah, that's one of those things.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry that she even had to go through that. And it's hard to talk about. There are people that want to come on here and tell their story, and last minute they're like, I can't. Like, I want to, but I'm not ready yet. And we're an open platform. We're here anytime that anybody wants to come on. Never be mad at a guest for not wanting to come on, especially to tell their story. That is that's the hardest thing that someone can do. And I hope that if there's anybody listening to this and you're struggling to tell your story, there's a lot of people that are here for you and willing to listen whenever you're ready.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I have family members that have wanted to come on to tell their stories, but it takes a lot of strength to come up there and then tell the world some of the horrible things you've gone through.
Well, especially when it's in your family, like that shit will shatter worlds. Like,
yeah.
Mm.
And the thing is that too is like, especially like our parents or grandparents' ages or our uncles, like in their time, how do you accuse somebody back then and prove it?
Oh, I mean, perfect example is my biological grandfather. He was 19 when he impregnated my grandmother and she was 15. Like that would be, I mean, we would be going after that guy nowadays.
Yeah. But you see, but like, how do you, like, I get like, let's say my aunt wants to come out and like call out my uncle, but like, what's the end game? What's gonna happen? Nothing. You see what I'm saying? Like, think about that. What is gonna happen? They're in their fucking.
People will just know.
The only good thing that could happen is maybe some
She gets
type
it off
of
her chest.
yeah, she gets it off her chest. That's about the only thing, which I don't want to delude that and act like that's not a big thing because
No, that's a huge thing. I think it's a huge thing. That's a huge win. I mean, not a win, but that's a huge hurdle.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and then people within the family, if they know that story, no matter the age, it teaches them something, I think. It'll teach you that it is people within the family, too. It's not just strangers, because we all grew up on stranger danger. we grew up, be aware of the strangers, don't go near a stranger, don't go near a van, when a lot of predators are within your own home or your neighbor or a family friend.
That's how it works.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Do you want to go, G?
It's like
go for it,
we
G.
need a buzzer, like a game show.
Is there anything that scared you or makes you think twice about doing your job?
Everyone always asks me that, and I get that question a lot. And people always tell me, what do you feel, or how do you? Because sometimes I take people with me, and they're like, "Why are you always so ice cold before you do this shit?" And the thing is that I guess because I've been doing this for so long, that I have a way to turn off certain emotions and save them for later. So like I'll do my job, and when it hits me is when I'm on the way home. That's when it's like, I don't know how to explain it. It's like when I go to do my job, life is in slow motion. I handle what I have to handle, and then when I'm done on the way home, it's like I turn on the switch, and then everything just zooms back into like real time. And then that's when all the emotions hit me, and that's when I start thinking about variables and shit that could have happened. And then on the way home, I'm like, fuck, this could have went south. This could have went this way. I could have done this way. I could have, and then that's when it bothers me the most, or when it affects me, is when I'm done or when I'm on the way home. That's when I think about it. But it's never before or during.
All right,
I can definitely relate, because when like we do these exposures and I get that adrenaline and we meet the guy, I don't think of any. In the beginning, on our way there, I think of possible outcomes because I'm an overthinker. But during, not at all. And then afterwards, especially when we exposed Jeffrey Kirstenot, who admitted to being seduced by a 12-year-old girl, he just disgusting, and the detail he went into the chat logs and what he said to our faces, and in the moment I'm just excited for the cops to come, adrenaline, all this stuff, and then afterwards, when everything's said and done, I'm in tears because this guy just admitted that he got seduced and had sex with a 12-year-old. When how can a 12-year-old seduce a 36-year-old man? It's just like, you used to just start thinking of everything. You start thinking of her situation, her parents, how he said that her parents were going through a hard time, and that's why he was able to sleep with her. Like, you just think, like, how did this conversation even go about? And it all hits you at once, and it happens with multiple exposures, because a lot of these guys
it's crazy how they
go
rationalize.
into detail.
Like how do you justify that? And like I don't understand the mentality of like. And here's another thing though. A lot of the other end, the other coin, which might be taboo to talk about, but there's a lot of preteens that are sexually active and actually are predators themselves. They look for the older.
Yeah.
So it's not to blame the adults on the most part. And the reason why I'm saying this is because I hear a lot of these people and a lot of things they go through, a lot of these 13, 14-year-olds getting pregnant, and I'm like, I didn't lose my fucking virginity till I was like 18. I wasn't like 13, 14 years old. What the fuck was I doing? Like, I don't remember. Like, I think I was playing sports in the street. Like, what the fuck? Like, how are these kids so sexually? I guess maybe, I don't know what the culture, I don't fucking know, but like, I think predators are on both sides of this line, and people don't talk about that because they don't ever think about that. But there are kids on the other spectrum that look for the older. I'm not going to say that they're totally in the wrong, but the adults at the long run, in the long term, are the ones ultimately at fault because they should know better.
There's actual cases where men who have gone to nightclubs, they think they're hanging out with girls that are ID'd over 21 and end up going home with a girl. She's 17, doesn't know it, sleeps with them, and gets arrested for rape of a minor. And I have a friend who a girl was trying to hit on him in a nightclub in LA, and his sister knew how old she was and was just like, no, knock it off. And thank God they did, but you're right.
You see, the circumstances like that shit like that is sad, and it's true though. Like I've been to clubs before I was 21 because I knew people. It's easier when a girl and and it's weird to say, but like, God, I can't. How do I say this without sounding like a fucking weirdo or a creeper? But like, girls nowadays are more developed than they were when I was growing up. Like,
Very true.
Seen 15, 16-year-old girls that I thought were 18, 19 years old because they're hanging out at bars and fucking clubs and shit. And I'm like, and then when you talk to them or whatever, like you know somebody, you're like, wait, how the fuck do you know these people? Or like things they say, you're like, wait, you're not as old as you say you are. Like, and I look at them, I'm like, something's wrong with the situation. That's why I'm like, I don't engage or talk to nobody in general. Period. Fucking, I don't give a shit. Like, I'm not getting caught up on nothing. But I could see how that, especially that I don't drink. So imagine, like, you know, a guy or a girl, could happen both ways, is out there getting shit faced, inebriated, and you're in a club knowing that they card you at 21. So your last thing in your mind is anybody in this club is under 21. And shit like that, like your friend, it happens. And that's shit that, like, I feel bad for and I feel sorry for. But, like, people are going to say, oh, but he should have asked for an ID. Who the fuck does that? Who, like, not sticking up for him, but, like, honestly, how many times have you carded or ID'd your boyfriend or girlfriend or significant other? Who does that? I've never done that to this
Nobody
day,
does
but
it.
Nobody does that. I
No.
mean, I mean,
I
at some point in
automatically
your
assume
relationship, you
that
might
you're
look
of
at each
age.
other's IDs, but that's the extent of it. Like,
That's why I'm like situations like that, I get it. You didn't know, but there are some that are like, bro, come on, you can tell this bitch is fucking 12. Shut up. Like,
yeah,
Like when we expose predators sometimes and they come and they say, oh, I just wanted to hang out, or I didn't know that she was 13, right? During those times, we'll tell them, you know, you can ask for an ID if you question it. If you question that this little girl or whatever is saying that she's 13, you could straight up say, hey, could I just see your ID for safety? We get a lot of, like, gay men in particular that have came to meet up and say that they were thinking that they were going to get beat up. They use that excuse a lot. They think that they're going to get beat up, or there's a bunch of people there that was going to jump me. That's why I'm careful, and da da da. And it's just the same thing. It's like, but you knew the age though from the beginning. Like, you knew the age. So if you were being careful because of another situation, how come you were sexual? How come you repeated the age? How come, like, these guys just don't. They just don't think.
I know you said you haven't been watched a lot of the other teams, but from what you watched, maybe even from Hunted Confronted, what have we been doing wrong, and what have we been doing right?
I don't know. I guess it's because, remember, every encounter is different. Every interaction is different. The things that, like, I try to tell people, because people tell me, oh, what happens if this happens to me? What can I do? And I try to explain to people, it's not that you can prepare for one thing. You have to be able to prepare for multiple outcomes, or be prepared enough to handle whatever comes to you. So to say what you did right or wrong, I mean, there's nothing really to say. I mean, you're alive. They got exposed. I think ultimately what the end game is, the issue here is how do we get them prosecuted to the full extent?
Yeah, that you bringing that up really hit hard, even after 50 episodes and doing what we did before. Like, the end game is really the biggest thing, and there's really not that much punishment for him.
Like I tell people all the time, I'm like, it's not that hard to find these kind of people. What the hardest part is keeping these kind of people. Like, what do you do with them after? Because I would like to fucking smash their fucking heads in and call it a day, but then I'm going to jail and they're not.
Yep.
Yeah. And you're looking at way more of time than they would have getting caught.
Exactly. Or if, let's say, we corner them, right? And I'm face to face with these fuckers, and I don't know, fucking, they fight me, and I fight back. Ultimately, even though they threw the first punch, they can always argue that I put them in a predicament where they felt threatened, or they felt threatened for their life. They had to defend themselves. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're always going to find a way to beat the system. So until we've plugged those holes in the system, there's nothing really. When does this end? This just becomes a game for us, or like it becomes a hobby, because it's like, cool, we found a predator, we exposed them. This is who it is. He's just gonna do it tomorrow and the next day and the next day. Because what? Nothing's gonna happen. You know?
Yeah, and that's the real reality. All of it. kind of sad and depressing, but it is something that we think as a community need to really push is changes in laws and stuff like that locally, like you're saying.
Like, unless there's like a federal blanket where they can all be prosecuted to like some way, some extent, and then have the FBI as the law enforcement side of it, so we don't have to deal with the locals, then that would be amazing. But I don't know what the federal laws to fucking pedophilia are, or if that's even a thing, or that's even enforceable.
I mean, they have ICAC and
I'm not
stuff
sure.
like that, but I really like it all comes down to what severity of the punishment is there. I mean, yeah, they go on sexual registration and stuff like that, but even then, most people don't know who they are and they carry about their lives. And I would say probably 90% of them repeat and offend in some way.
But then here's the thing, and then now we're gonna talk about some murky water shit. Is what happens? Let's say we get the conviction, we get the jail time. People's arguments, oh, they need to be rehabilitated. How do you rehabilitate that?
Well, yeah, we've discussed that. I don't think you can. I think they're this is
They're
like you said,
wired.
they're
I don't
wired
think.
that way. They're hardwired. You can't fix it. I don't think there is because like they do testosterone blockers and all those type of things, but it's like that doesn't take away the fact that these people they love the power and the innocence they steal. Like that's what they're really going after, and they'll just use an
Yeah, they're
object.
legitimate predators.
Yeah,
But it's like, what happens after you get them? Like, it sticks. Then what? You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of people are gonna say, oh, they need to be rehabilitated. You can't kill them. What are you gonna do with them? Like, what do you do with them? Like, what
yeah.
happens?
In California, we have our own. I don't know if Florida does, but California near Fresno, they have a prison that's only for sexual predators and rapists. That's
No, we don't have that here.
yeah, but it's all the idea is like rehabilitation. It's like, what does that really mean? Not much when they're hardwired.
Yeah, I mean, and
Yeah.
rehabilitation to them is just, oh, let's see how long they can go without talking about a 12-year-old, and then we'll release them.
Exactly. Like Travis Joe Benson, the first arrest we got was in Colorado. And he was a repeat offender. He failed to register as a sex offender. We caught him being very vulgar with a little girl. And he was in a rehabilitation home where he wasn't allowed to have a cell phone, anything like that. He had stolen a cell phone, stolen a charger, got on these apps. He had a girlfriend over the internet who had kids in Oregon. And he was talking to this little girl, which was us, wanting to have sex and have her babies and marry her. And he had a few hours that he was allowed out of this house. So he got let out for his few hours, met at the gas station. The cops came and arrested him, and he's still in jail today. But that's a very rare case of ours of someone getting that much punishment because of him being a repeat offender and everything. But like you said, he was in a rehabilitation home and he just got to like be out. He got to steal things. Like there's no supervision really, or it's crazy.
That's the thing that we getting laws passed is one thing, but then having the punishments another. How do you punish these kind of people? You know what I'm saying? Like, what do you do?
Do you get death threats because of what you do?
Yeah, I get DMs. I get stares a lot. I mean, I live in the hood right now, but I've had issues, places, but nothing really too crazy. I've had fugitives who I've arrested comment on their own pictures on my Instagram.
Is it like are they trying to start shit with you or are they just like
Yeah. Like
yeah.
sometimes they're just like, oh, like they'll DM me to take their pictures down or some shit. I ignore it. Or like
Yeah.
for them. And then I get a lot of people who not a lot, but I get the once in a while sympathizer like, oh, you shouldn't be putting them out on blast like that, or like, oh, that's disrespectful or some dumb shit. And I'm looking at them like, you're telling me that posting a fugitive who's wanted for a crime they were already guilty of is being disrespectful because I posted their pictures and videos. I'm like, I don't see the law. Like I sometimes I wonder what shit people like think before they say them. I'm like, what fucking sense does that make? But I don't know. I fucking ignore these idiots. I hate people. I fucking hate people.
Yeah. Yeah. Is there anything that's coming up that you can let us know about that we can look forward to?
The thing is that with this whole COVID shit, it kind of put a huge dent in stuff that was supposed to go on. Because like
Yeah.
2 months ago, I signed an NDA, but I think I'm not allowed to say specifics. But I got picked up by a producer of a already well-known series that recently got pulled off the air that wanted to film my fugitive arrests.
Ah.
So I finally got my in for a series, but this COVID shit fucked it up and I haven't been able to do anything. But yeah, they were the first person to fucking
Congratulations.
actually.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it hasn't happened yet, but it's already been in the works. It's still on pause, but because their moneymaker just got pulled off the air, I don't know where this is going to go now. So I've had the producer of Cops hit me up like 2-3 years ago, and he never. I mean, he still follows me. I see him watching my fucking stories. I don't follow him or I don't respond to him anymore. But like, he just never pulled the trigger or never like followed through with what he wanted to do. So I don't give a fuck. But people tell me that shit all the time. They always DM me like, "Oh, you should have your own series. You should have your own this, your own no." But it's not that easy to do that. Like, you have to have somebody who has an in with one of these fucking networks, and then you have to like film your sizzler or whatever the fuck it's called, and then they have a panel, and it's just a fucking mission.
I should send you our sizzler. We have a sizzle reel from 2 years ago. Collins Avenue in LA picked us up and wanted to do something with us, and it didn't go through because
a guy that wants to do mine, and he'll probably do something with it.
Well, they pitched our sizzle reel to all these networks at this conference, and because of the whole Chris Hansen lawsuit stuff that happened with him, no networks want to touch it, so it fell through. But I'll send it to you. It's pretty dope.
What happened with Chris Hansen?
Someone that he had exposed on the show had went home and committed suicide, and the family sued the network and won.
Yeah.
And got a lot of money.
What the fuck?
So networks are scared to touch anything that has to do with predator hunting for that reason. Because who can sign off and say, yeah, I agree to be on national television for being a predator, or someone commits suicide and then the family goes after the network. There's not really, you can't really go through those loopholes.
That's fucking insane. And they won.
Yep.
They won. Yes.
Right, because the fucking societal pressure of being exposed.
They had a really good lawyer. That's all I could say is they had to have had one hell of a lawyer team to get that to go through. But yeah, the family got paid out. It's just like in Santa Barbara, you had a guy robbing a pot club, and he fell through the induction system of it, and the family sued the dispensary because the induction system wasn't rated for his weight. It's like, well, it's not made for fucking people. It's made for air. But yeah, but he fell out of it and he had a flashlight in his mouth and it killed him.
What?
Yeah, this is like 2006, 2007, something like that. But yeah.
This fucking world is insane.
Yeah, I call it backwards land.
By that same theory, we all could be sued then.
Yeah, 100%.
And you look at the things that are going right now, they're sue happy for anything right now. Cancel culture is in full effect.
It's funny because that guy.
Let's not give anybody any.
That guy, yeah.
I was gonna say, let's not give anybody. Sorry, let's not give anybody any ideas though.
That guy Jermaine Barnes, the one that I was telling you about, that has said all that shit. He posted on his Facebook because he unfriended me after I confronted him. But they were sending me screenshots of what he was posting. But he posted on one of his posts, "Does anybody know a good defamation attorney?" So I'm like, so I commented on the thread of me exposing him because he could still see the notifications even though he unfriended me. And I wrote on there, I said, how can you sue for defamation when it's your own words and your own screenshots being exposed. That's not defamation. That's using your words.
Doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not like I made up these words and said, I think that that he claims that an adult and a kid. No, motherfucker. I reposted what you said. I posted the screenshot. I didn't like the post of me calling him out because I tagged him on it. I didn't give a fuck. I tagged him on it and posted his screenshot of him saying what he said. It's not like I wrote Jermaine Barnes said that this, and this. No, I posted his screenshot and tagged his name and said, this is what this guy thinks. He's a fucking pedophile. That's it. So he wrote that. And I was like, bro, bring your fucking attorneys. I don't give a fuck. What the fuck are they going to tell me? You're a pedophile.
But where can everybody find you? What's your Instagram and whatever else that you use on social media?
I don't have an OnlyFans. I don't know. I'm not really, contrary to popular belief, I'm really not big on the social media thing, but my Instagram is @officialhardcore, one word. Nobody can find me though, because I'm like ghost fucking shadow banned shit. Like you have to literally type in my name and search me. It's insane.
Yeah, I had to find yours. I had to type it out completely. I was like, what the fuck? But yeah, so you're shadow banned too?
I'm like shadow banned to the worst extent. They even deleted my account a few months ago.
Oh, your account's so good.
You got it back, though.
People gotta go. Like,
well, I got it back, and the funny thing is that when I got it deleted, everybody was texting me, and they're like, "Yo, what's wrong? What's like, what the fuck?" And I'm like, "No, Instagram just deleted my shit." Like, "Oh, like, are you mad right now?" I'm like, "No, I don't give a fuck." Like, it was so liberating. It was weird. It was like I thought I would be mad because I've had Instagram since like the beginning of time. I've had Instagram since like 2007 or some shit like that. Like, I had it since the beginning. I was like relieved that I didn't have it anymore, because if you scroll, well, now that we get off this podcast, scroll to my very first post, and it's not a lot. It's only like I only have like 200 pictures now, but I had 6,000 pictures. I've archived them all. And remember, I had Instagram since 2007, so there's a lot of pictures. But I archived them, and I left one picture on for like a year, and it was the very first picture that's on my Instagram right now. And it's a picture of me, but I wrote out this long thing that I needed to get off my chest about how society holds us to a certain standard that's false. And when I lost the Instagram, it was like a relief, because I felt like I don't have to prove to anyone anything anymore, or I don't have to look at other people's shit and feel like I need to compete with them anymore. So I felt good about losing it, and I didn't give a fuck. But after like a week or two, I wrote to find out why they deleted it, just to find out. And then like 2 weeks after, because it was gone for like a month and a half, like 2 weeks or 3 weeks after that, they wrote me an email back saying that there was a mistake, that they deleted my account, and then they reinstated it. It's just bullshit. I know it's just because of all the gun shit on my account. They're just very big. They're very anti-gunners, Instagram.
Yeah, anyone goes to his Instagram, you're going to see a lot of badass firearms. My personal favorite thing right now is your breakdowns on how terrible Tekashi 6ix9ine security is. It fucking cracks me up.
Well, the reason why I have a fire under my ass about that is because his manager recently hit me up.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So after there's a video of in New York where the guy with one of his security takes a phone from the guy that's trying to expose him. You see his manager running. He's the fat guy with the blonde hair. He goes running. So I DM him because he follows me. I DM him, I go, "Oh, that was a good decision you made running, because those security are not going to do fucking shit for you." So he's like, "Bro, this can't happen again. I need real security. Do you have any good guys in LA?" Because I guess that's where, before they went to LA now, he was asking me for security for there. So I was like, "Yeah, we travel everywhere. Like, what do you need?" He's like, "Oh, but they need to be armed." Like, "Oh, I got you." Like, so I gave him my quote. I told him what it's going to cost. And he left me on red. He left me on red on the DM. I texted it to him to make sure he got it. Left me on red in the text. So, proving a point that they're not willing to pay for legitimate security. They want the budget route. Now I have a fire under my ass to just expose them.
Yeah, and the rumor is right now that he actually got robbed in LA.
Right now?
Yeah, supposedly they're denying it, but people from LA are claiming that they stole his jewelry and money, and there haven't been like recent pictures of him with that same jewelry. So it is welcome to LA. I mean, fuck around, fucking find
They,
out.
they know how to find me if they need to find me. But that's the thing, though, is just that he attracts so much negative energy. And the problem is that the only reason why I would take him on is to set the example of what it should be. But I pick and choose my clients. I don't just take on anyone. I've gotten to the point in my life where like I've denied people, millionaires, billionaires, because they don't fit my book. If I feel like you're not going to be good for my own image or my own repertoire, I'm sorry, bro. I'm not going to fuck with you. Like I don't fuck with rappers. I'm not gonna. I wasn't gonna fuck with 6ix9ine, but I was only gonna do it just to set an example. But I just proved the point. He can't afford it. He's full of shit. All these rappers are full of shit. That was my beef with the whole 6ix9ine thing. And the kid is not a bad kid. He's a good kid. I've met him before. Well spoken, super nice kid. The biggest pussy in the world.
Yeah, it's all an image. I mean, it is what it is, but it is hilarious to watch your breakdowns.
He's smart. He's the biggest troll in the world, and he makes fucking millions on it.
That you cannot deny.
That's true.
He's gonna get
Let's
killed.
end it on this note. Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, when
somebody's gonna pull his card.
yeah, I don't want to laugh, but I mean, everybody can talk about it. It's just a matter of time for sure. But let's end it on this note. Everybody, be sure to check out the links to Sully's socials below in the description. Follow him; you won't be disappointed. He also has merch. His shirts say "Kill all pedophiles," "Thick verse everybody," "Skilled at violence," and more. Thank you so much for coming on, and I hope we can do a part 2 sometime in the future. The work you do is amazing. I'm going to be looking at every single post you do from now on. I'm going to be following your YouTube. I cannot wait to see you drop some stuff. If you need help with editing or anything like that, you should let me know because I know an amazing guy who can edit. So just let me know.
Thank you guys for having me. I appreciate you guys and everything that you guys do.
Yeah, we appreciate you, man.
Thank you.
So
Thank you for listening, liking, commenting, and subscribing. I appreciate y'all. Until next time, Banana Cats.
Banana Cats. Much love. Peace.